So fast. I know I say that every time, but it goes so fast. Every time I think, oh, I got plenty of time, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna make this quick, but quick for me is like 20 minutes, so. I wanna talk a little bit about observing the outside world and being influenced by the outside world. Because there is a disconnect, in a sense, between doing those. Some people will say they're observing it when we're actually still being influenced by it. And those are two really distinctive energies. You know, we don't want to be influenced by the outside world, but we really need to look at it. And we really need to observe what's going on, because if we don't observe what's going on, what will happen is we'll kind of get so, what's a word I want to use here? We can get caught up in it again and not know it, and still be listening to what other people think and not realize that we're doing it. So when we're observing the outside world, we really want to look at the energetics of it. You know, and if we're not looking at the energetics of the outside world, we want to see, why aren't we doing that? You know, if we're getting caught up on what somebody's saying, if we're getting caught up on classifying people, whether we're classifying people as a political party or if we're classifying people on consciousness, that's another thing. A lot of us will go through that. People call it like a spiritual hierarchy, and in a lot of ways that's kind of what it is. You're kind of in a spiritual hierarchy on how far along you are than anybody else. And when you're still doing that, trust me, you're not as far along as you think you are, because we've all done that. I used to do that too. I used to think, oh my God, you know, I am in like, you know, 15,000 D, you know, I'm so beyond, you know, fourth dimensional consciousness. And that's exactly where I was setting. So our ego is always going to think we're farther along than we are. So we always want to be able to kind of step back and really look at, can we observe the energetics of something? And if we're not able to really observe the energetics of something, we have to go inside and do more inner work. And we're always going to be inside, working on everything kind of inside first. If you're trying to work from outside in, it's not going to work. That's what our human mind tried to do. Let me control the outside world. Let me try to maneuver the outside world. Let me try to bend it into what I want it to be, not understanding that our internal is what shapes the outside. Now, it can take a long time when we do a lot of internal work for the outside to realign. You know, that doesn't come immediately. That takes a long time for that to happen. That is not something we do in, like, you know, a day or 2 weeks. And if people are saying they've done it in that long, you'll see a lot of people that will say, oh, I thought about something and I created it. And it seemed like it happened just like that. You know, I remember there was a lady that I knew years ago, and she was trying to, at that point we were still using the manifestation word, which is a very human word. You know, now I use creation. I very rarely say manifestation unless I'm talking to someone who that's a word that someone's going to listen to and understand. And like someone who really in their human ego is going to go more with that word. So it might be kind of a pivot or opening up to use that word. But it's really funny because, you know, she was trying to do something and she did it, and it's like it happened immediately. And I was like, I've been trying to do that for like 2 years. How come when you did it happened immediately? And when I did it, nothing's happened yet. And you kind of get this sort of that why them? Why is that happening so quickly for them? And there's a lot of reasons for a lot. A lot of times, just because our human wants something, it doesn't mean it's highest aligned. You know, and in that moment when we're trying to manifest something very specific, and usually manifestations are something specific, when we're trying to do something really specific, we kind of get caught up in one thing. You know, we're not expanding our energetic net. You know, we're to see what is highest line come to me. I can't even think about all the awesome stuff, just bring it all to me. We don't do that, right? We want this one person, we want this one job, we want this one house. We have a real specific thing. And that's what makes the word manifestation even though people will say to keep it loose, you'll see all the time people say keep it loose, but we don't realize how linear we are when we're in that word. Even though we always will hear keep it loose, don't be specific, we're still being very specific. Because we don't know how not to be. If you're still using that word, you don't know how not to be. You know, we're still in that linear place. I was in that linear place for a really a really long time, years, to really clear out where you're not working from your human ego when you're doing it. Because remember, our soul aligned realities don't look like our human realities. So if we're trying to attract certain things based on our human version of what it should be, then what happens a lot of times for us is when we do that, we get so stuck on that. We get stuck on having to be that one thing and that one person, because our human can only see one way. Multidimensionality, your higher aspects can see multiple ways. Humans only going to see one way. That's why when it goes into self-preservation, it goes into me, because that's all it can see. It can only see one way in and one way out. And if that's all we're seeing, then that's where we're from. That's the aspect we're in. And we have to be able to recognize that and not try to be angry about it or judge the fact that, oh, I'm totally in my ego on this one. I'm not seeing all the possibilities. I'm only seeing one. It's just a tip off as to where we are. Our human ego is always going to look out for itself. It's not going to make a decision and think about anyone else in the reality. It's only going to make a decision and think about itself. It's not able to think about anything else. It's not able, sorry, the cat's starting to make his progression up here. It's not able to think about anything else. It doesn't have the capability to. It's only going to preserve itself. That's what it's made for. That's what it does. So when we start looking at when we're looking at a reality, when we're looking at what we're going to do in a reality, do we just think about ourselves? Or are we thinking about everyone else in that reality? Can we respect ourselves without disrespecting other people? That's a big one. Can we respect ourselves and not disrespect somebody else? Because a lot of times in the beginning, we're not able to do that really, in a sense, because we're so into self-preservation when we're getting out a lot of our human realities we created. A lot of times we just walk away because in the beginning we can't align it. We can't deal with it. We can't bring it in. We can't be from our highest place to align it, which means we technically have to do it again anyway. So we don't even bother to do it. That's why a lot of times our universe, the higher aspects of you, are going to say, don't worry about it. Just forget about it. Just forget about that for now. It's not that we get a pass. It's just you're not going to be able to align it anyway from your highest place. You're going to have to do it again anyway. So let's save you the time and don't even bother with it right now, because you're going to have to go back and do it. It's just like you put a pin in it. It goes on your little board. I'm going to put a pin in that. I'll be back. I'll be back to you. I know you're going to come back around, but right now I can't deal with you. And we go through a lot of that in the beginning because we're not able to respect ourselves and look at everybody else, because we still have that linear thinking pattern. We still have that one way, that one person we're thinking about. In that moment, we're thinking about ourselves. We don't have the contact. We haven't embodied it enough to have the multidimensional selves be able to look at all the other people that are affected by this. You see that a lot, even if we bring it down to a really simple explanation, like if you're in a grocery store and people are being really loud. A lot of times we'll go places and have an amazing experience, but we're not disrespecting other people while we're doing it. You see it in the movie theaters. People want to have this amazing experience, they want to play and have fun, but they're not respecting other people around them. I think I've given the example of someone breastfeeding in a public restaurant. And you understand that there's an energy of self-empowerment, there's an energy of, respecting yourself, respecting what you want to do in that moment, but you're not respecting other people. Like you'll see that when you also see why we're going to nudity here, but for a reason we are, in a nudist colony, in a sense, or people want to be naked in a place where you're not supposed to be, And it's just, well, I want to be free. I want to be myself. But in that, there's a part of that where you're expressing yourself, and that's an important part of the process. But you're still doing it from an unconscious place. Even though it's a conscious act, you're not respecting everyone around you. You're just seeing what you want to do. So you're still coming from an unconscious place, the ego, even though it is a conscious choice. So it's a step up, but it's still not from your highest place. So if we kind of loop all that back around, and we look at it from, can we look at the outside world? Can we see when people are respecting or being respectful for themselves or what they want, but not respecting other people? Can we look at what's going on with the financial systems right now? Can we look at it but not be affected by it, not be influenced by it? Because when we're in our human programming, all we are is influenced by our programming, okay? We're influenced by the outside world. That's all we can draw from. That's all we know. It is the only thing we have. And we kind of let that shape us. And we also bring that in because our body is gridded to that. So when we talk about clearing our body, we're unraveling our DNA. We're getting all that stuff out of our body. So we are no longer gridded up to that collective. But you'll still see it come in from time to time. And sometimes we're really, in the beginning, we're kind of afraid to even engage in it. You know, I don't want to be around it because I don't want to be influenced by it. And you'll go through a lot of maybe years where you're in that phase where you don't want to even give it any attention because you don't want to be influenced by it. And you'll sometimes we'll be seen where we're still influenced by it. But sometimes we don't want to see that. So we kind of want to shut it back down. So it goes back into, are we avoiding something, or are we purposely just not engaging in it? You know, can you observe it to see what's going on, but not be influenced by it? No, it is still a corrupt society in a sense. It's a corrupt timeline. You know, human timelines they're all corrupt timelines. That's why all of ours have to go. And that's where a lot of us will get kind of hung up for a while because we don't want all of them to go. We're still in a linear mindset where it has to be this, it has to be that way. You'll get to certain parts of ascension where all that gets blown up. You will see that it's never going to be one way. It's never going to be how you thought it was going to be. How you imagined your soul line realities from a human perspective is not what they are. You totally disconnect to connect within again, because you can't stay connected up to that and connect within, because they're two different gridding systems. You know, it's just not possible to do it. So you have to disconnect for a while, and then when we start re-engaging, can we re-engage without it shaping us again, without bringing it in? Now, there is a part, you go through a lot of different parts of ascension where you really can't bring any of that stuff in because it impacts your consciousness. You know, I went through probably a couple years where I couldn't really watch anything super violent because it was, you were starting to see how it impacted you. You know, you were starting to see how it was affecting your field and you didn't realize it. Then you get to a different part of ascension where you can handle that stuff again, but you're just observing it. You know, you're just looking at it. There's still some stuff I have no interest to watch, but violence doesn't bother me like it did when I was in that phase where I couldn't even see it anymore, because you could feel how it influenced your field, because everything in your field is going to influence you. That's why you go through a different part of your process where you have a lot of different people in your field and see, can you still hold the highest? You know, are you still going to be able to come from your highest place with people in your field all the time? You know, can you still hold your field? Can you hold your consciousness no matter what is going on around you? So as we've gone through each linear year, you're going to start to see a lot of things playing out. I did a video about astrology a couple of days ago, but how all the planets are inside of us. I'll be posting that in a couple of days. I haven't edited or anything yet, but some of my videos don't get up on here just because it's really like a dartboard of what I can get up and what I can't get up. I went through like 3 or 4 videos where I thought the whole thing was posting and only 15 minutes were posting, so I was like, okay, let me go back and do that one again. So if it doesn't get up and you're interested in that one, you can check out the YouTube channel because it'll definitely get on there, but it's going to be a few days. But it's really just observing everything but really noticing where you're still influenced. Where is the carrot that can still be dangled? Where can you kind of feel yourself being sucked back in? Where are we not 100% moving forward? But being able to see it. You know, where are we not being respectful to others because we still are just looking at, let me respect myself. And like I said, there's a part of the process where we do that, because we don't have the connection, the capability yet to look at everybody else. Now, we don't really understand that at the time. We see that later as to why. We're always going to see it later, because you're going to be at a higher consciousness looking back at those realities as to why they had to be that way. It's not something you're going to see when you're in it. You know, we really can't align a reality when our consciousness is the frequency of that reality. We're not able to. We're only going to be able to do that later. So it's important to understand that once you can see it, then we're going to start messing with that. But we got to be able to see it first. We have to be able to see it first, then we can align it. But you're going to see it from we're going to see it from a higher perspective. And once we can see it, it's kind of like when you start having a lot of thoughts. You know, our soul light, the more we embody in our soul, embody in our higher aspect, we start to purge all the things that aren't those aspects, are distorted to that, have a distorted frequency. And that's when all these thoughts start coming up, whether it's self-hate, whether it's not worthy, whatever it is. But once we can feel those thoughts, we can clear them. But sometimes they're just such a normal thought, we don't even realize we have it. But when you start having the thought and it's screaming at you because it's so distorted, and you'll see that a lot in the outside world too, something's going to scream at you because it's so distorted. It's kind of the same sort of thing. It's screaming at you because of the distortion. We then have a chance to clear it, but we have to be able to see it all, not judge any of it. Just like when we observe the outside world, you don't judge it because we all did the same thing. None of us were sitting here and not doing the same stuff. We all did the same stuff. But we take great care in how we observe it, how we interact with the outside world. What are we bringing to the table? Are we bringing our highest self? And if we're not, it might not be the time to show up. So I think that is a good, quick one today. I don't think I did that under 20 minutes. Maybe I did. I don't know. It's possible. Okay.